Well, hey everyone, before we get to the show, unfortunately some bad news to report here. First of all, in case you haven't already heard, Dr. John Bindernagel has passed away after a long fight with cancer. It's been going on for a couple of years, and he didn't want anybody to make a big fuss about it. So people that knew about it sort of were sworn to secrecy, keep it under your hats. So sorry to let everyone know about that. He was definitely a giant in the Bigfoot community and will be sadly missed. I encourage everybody to go check out, if you didn't already see everything that he's turned out, go check it out. This guy did some great research on Bigfoot, very straightforward, scientific, and you know, that's one of the things he had going for him. He was an actual scientist, Dr. John Bindernagel, and we have so very few people in the scientific community that are willing to have an open mind and take a look at the data and see what they think. And, you know, Grover Krantz is gone now, Bindernagel is gone, and so the list is getting shorter. You know, for right now we got Meldrum, we have John Mayanzinski, and, you know, some of these other guys. So pray for the family and relatives of Dr. Bindernagel, and very, very sad that this happened. So on to other news. For the fans of Glagg, the Glagg Saga, which of course you're going to be loving this show because Kevin's on here, we have a Facebook group. We have created a Facebook group for fans of the Glagg Saga. It's called Glagland, Glaggland, and it's on Facebook, so anybody that's a fan of the Glagg Saga wants to talk to other people that are fans of it. And Kevin will be on there shortly and answering questions, so you'll be able to talk to him directly, get him to answer questions that you've got on anything. I'd also like to thank everybody for the response on that show. It was just overwhelming and hugely positive, and frankly, neither one of us expected that. I figured I was going to be just pulling out the heavy artillery and blasting trolls from the battlements for a couple months, and it was just the opposite. Everybody was really wonderful. That it was really amazing, I know, especially for Kevin, who had huge reservations about even doing the show. And he's so very glad that he did at this point and has had so many wonderful comments from listeners out there. And I want to thank you guys for the comments, too. And thanks for really agreeing with me that this was a story that was actually worth the time that it would take to put out there, and that people would enjoy it, and that it's worth, you know, documenting something like this. This is, you know, one of those really amazing Bigfoot encounters that's, you know, maybe once a generation. When was the last time that we had one? Well, 1920s with Albert Ostman. So, you know, it doesn't happen very often. You got a few people that interact with them, and it's just very few. So, love the response. Thank you so very much for it. Really appreciate it. Kevin's health is okay for right now. Everybody keep praying for him, please. Also, we are going to try and see if we can get Kevin out to where Glagg was last seen, and see if we can find any evidence of him, or maybe if we're super lucky, even find him. And Kevin, of course, wants to see Glagg again. And so we're going to try and make that happen. We're calling it Glagg Quest 2018. And any information on that will also be on the Glagland Facebook group. So with that, I hope everybody else out there is doing well and not frozen to death or anything like that. Please, you know, be kind to each other, help people. And once again, remember Dr. Bindernagel, his relatives, family, and all of his fans, and your prayers for the great loss to the Bigfoot community that we're having right now. This episode, we're having another Duke's Roundtable, and we have quite the gathering of mighty Bigfoot Knights around the table today. This is the Interactors Roundtable. Everybody that's on the roundtable, except for me, has had actual close interaction with Bigfoot. So I'm going to do a lot more shutting up and letting all of the guests talk a lot more on this one, because I've got a whole lot to add to that. So with that, let me introduce our guests. All of them have been on the show multiple times, as you guys are probably guessing at this point. And first of all, and most recently on the show, welcome back, Kevin.
Hey, thanks for having me again, Duke.
Glad to get you guys all together here. And, of course, next we have somebody who is still occasionally having interactions with Scooter, and that's Taylor. Welcome to the show, Taylor.
Hey, everybody, what's going on?
Right
glad
on,
to have me back.
Yeah, glad to have you back and glad to be able to do this. And the person that's really making it all possible is the one I'm going to introduce right now, because without her, we wouldn't even have a show here. This is a Q&A session for her from you guys, basically. So welcome to the show, Khat Hansen.
Thank you.
Hi, Khat.
Hi.
Alrighty. So we're going to start it off, I guess, with Kevin then. Kevin, I know this, your whole interaction with Glagg happened a long time ago, like 3.5 decades ago, and you've had a lot of time to digest it, but you haven't had a whole lot of really good answers, and up until recently, you started getting some of it figured out, it sounds like, and you probably still got other questions that Khat may be able to answer. So go ahead, man. I'm going to give you the floor now, and go ahead and start asking questions.
All right. Hi, Khat. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Now that I'm here, I can't think of anything. Isn't that the way it usually goes, though?
That's
What's
okay.
your question list?
Yeah. Well, have you heard what I have said on the radio?
Yes, I've heard some of it. Yes.
All right. I was just wondering, just about all of it. Is it the interaction that I was able to have with Glagg, was that, basically all was that because he was so young when whatever happened to his family happened, and I was able to have that type of interaction with him?
I honestly think
so.
So. Yeah, I do. I think it is. I told Duke before that I've recently had interaction with 3 young males that were displaced from their families. And usually I don't interact with males by themselves, but these guys were so young, they were juveniles, and one teeny bopper. So I believe that what happened with you and Glagg was that it was because he was so young, and they're just like humans, they need emotional support. And I think that's what he saw in you, was a kindred spirit.
Yes, and that's the one thing that got me more than anything was how much emotionally they're like humans with,
right.
The touch, just everything about them is. That's why I said more than once on the radio that they're not an animal.
No,
they're
not an animal. Right. And he did. And see, when you just said, I think you said the most important thing out of all of it is you said there's touch as well. And they are very human-like in that they like to touch and emphasize and understand, with their hands. And a lot of people don't realize that about them because they're so big. They think that their hands must, have, be less sensitive. But they actually have more nerves, I've noticed, in their hands. They're so gentle for being so big.
Yes.
Yeah. And like I said before, he also would pick me up by my head and turn me around and send me off the other way as a kid. But he didn't do it in such a harsh way that it would hurt me, And one of my best memories of him is me sitting under my willow tree that I had in on the side yard, and here come this big old dirty hand with one of the little wild baby bunnies in it, to hand off to me. And usually when my cats brought those baby bunnies home, they died. They were shocked.
Yeah.
And for this one to live and survive and thrive really has always made a big point with me because they are very gentle. For as large as they are, their hands, they can be very, very gentle. On the other hand, I've also watched those hands squeeze the life out of a deer, and rip the head off of a bull.
Exactly.
So, yeah, so it just depends. But most people don't get that with them. They think that because they're so big that they are animal-like, and they're not. They're more human-like than they are animal-like.
And whenever Glagg and I had played together, he would realize that he was a lot stronger and a lot bigger than I was. And I said before, he hurt me a lot, but not intentionally. That's when we were getting too rowdy. But overall, he recognized that, and his touch was always very gentle.
Right. Yeah,
when it came to me.
Yeah, and see, and to be honest with you, I've never experienced them wanting to harm me per se, other than one lone male that they have, and he doesn't really want to harm me. He just wants me to stay away from them. But I never experienced them being hurtful like that to me at all. They're very gentle, and I've told the story many times of me fighting them, fighting with Kyosa over my coyote that I had, that I was raising up, and they hate coyotes, at least mine do, and he killed it. And I wish, my children said they wish they had a video camera of me out in the side yard, because I was literally kicking the crap out of him. I was so mad. I was pounding on him and slugging him, and just, it was just a royal battle, and he just laid down and took it. He's like, no, you're done now, go away. He didn't hurt me at all during that point.
Whenever I was hurt, the main thing that I gathered from it on his mind was because I was hurt. It's all he could focus on.
Right.
Yeah, he was more concerned about me being hurt than anything, and that always got to me. I mean.
Right, and see, most people don't associate that with them, And I'd like to point out something to a lot of people out there too. If you go back and study any of the old, from like the 1970s, late 60s through the 70s into the 80s, where people would have contact, they would come across one in the woods or something, and they would talk about how big and scary and terrifying this creature was, but at the same time, they were always reporting, well, I got scratched by him, or I got pushed by him. You don't hear the stories about them, this huge creature bending down and ripping their leg off. You don't hear that.
Yeah.
And when you do, you have to sit there and kind of scratch your head and go, well, that's interesting, because I've never noticed that. So I don't believe those per se when I hear them, the horror stories. But I do
often wondered about the stories that I have heard about that, because I never saw that either. But I know there's different types out there. But
right, there are different types, but the type that we're talking about are more. You'll notice. Okay, I really want people to understand that when you say there are the human-like ones, and I don't know how to classify them. Duke does. He does all of that. I'm not a researcher. I'm just me. I'm an interactor with them, and
exactly.
I just happen to have a gift. So I don't really go out and research them per se, but I do know that the ones that actively seek humans out are actually willing to have interaction with us. So therefore, I have noticed that when they seek us out, they're not going to be the ones that hurt us. They're not looking to hurt us like that, to get off the horror stories there, like I said, your leg being ripped off or whatnot. But
the ones that sneak up on you are the ones that are going to hurt you, and you're not going to be telling anybody about it.
Exactly.
Yes.
Or you come across those ones like I was talking about down in Louisiana and Mississippi, where we were talking about things that are not a Bigfoot, that want to interact with you. How can you tell?
Right.
It's very obvious, because things that want to hurt you, that's not these guys. These guys will either A, want to interact with you, or B, they go out of their way to stay away from you. I can name a bunch of YouTube channels on YouTube that have people that are out there hunting them, and they're not getting any videos of them. Why is that? Because they don't want interaction with those people. They're running away. So
I think that they know that the people that are out there doing that sort of thing are looking for trouble, or looking to hurt them.
Yes, I believe so too.
very much so, because when you approach them with an open heart, I know a lot of people out there that have had interactions always tell me the same thing. They're like, "Oh my heck, Khat, their eyes are what they're, they're so gentle, and you realize when you get to looking at them that you can read their expressions, their emotions in their eyes."
Go ahead, Taylor.
Like when I go up to Scooter, and what took me so long to get to where I could be as close to him as it is because, the trust thing. And if I start going toward him and my phone's in my back pocket, he can sense that. And he'll point, like, at my waist, and I'll go set it on the deck. And I'm not there to do nothing, take no pictures of it. I don't want that. And I'm just really scared of him still, but I believe that open heart stuff, and you're not trying, like you said, them people out with the cameras all over them. They may get glimpses and shadows, but they'd leave that stuff at home sometimes and just go. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the best way to approach them. Mine, I tell people all the time, for the longest time, people would get mad at me. They said, "Why don't you take a picture of that when you're doing this with them? Or why don't you take a video camera?" Because they don't like those, and it's real simple. I just equate it to early Native American and other indigenous tribes, that did not want their pictures taken. They felt like it was a part of them that was being taken away from them. So I always just tell people, if you're going to do this, you need to ask permission, because seriously, how would you feel if somebody just came up to you and snapped your picture and walked off somebody completely who you never even saw? You'd be wondering, what the heck?
Or somebody comes into your living room and starts messing around with it and putting a camera up. And the one thing with me, I know my situation was totally unique, and I am blessed because of it, but I wanted people to leave him alone and not know about him. I never even thought about taking a camera with me. Plus, cameras were so crappy back then. Duke did put up a picture of me on my old motorcycle, and I was blurry. That's how bad the cameras were back then.
Even good cameras made pictures look blurry. Can you imagine what they do with Bigfoot? He'd be so blurry you wouldn't even know where he was.
Exactly.
Yep.
But seriously, though, this brings to another important question here that I've actually got for you, Khat. So Scooter knows that he's got an electronic device in his pocket. Use Bigfoot sent to electronic.
Yeah, they do. And there again, I have my own theories on how they do that, with their own energy field. And yes, every single thing on this earth has an energy field. It's something that we've put off, But also, more importantly, what I have noticed myself is my electronic camera, my one that you put the chip in, when you turn it on, it makes this very high-pitched hum. And it's warming up. They hear that. And I've told people, like we were talking about before, they can smell you 5 miles out. They know the moment you hit their area. They know when you're there. Their hearing is unbelievable. The fact that they can smell you, added to the fact, I don't know if you guys noticed, but on your big guys, do either of them have the tusks, the big canines on the bottom?
No, Glagg didn't.
Okay. Well, mine do, and I've noticed that they can keep it dry for as hard as they try. It doesn't work. There's always something wet there in the corner of their mouth. And I've caught them over my lifetime touching their tongue to the corners of their mouth where that tusk is. And that's, to me, I've always just associated it as almost like a bloodhound. They can taste the air. They taste what's out there. And I told...
Kind of like a snake does, too.
Yeah.
Maybe not exactly the same, but yeah.
Yeah, I told one of my clients a while back, it's been about a year ago,
he was asking, he said, well, how do they smell? What do they do? And I said, they actually, you can hear them. When they are trying to smell something, they take in those great big lungfuls of air, you know, and it comes in through their nose, you know, and they are smelling. And I don't know if either of you have ever seen that, but they do. They put their head up and they will look around and they smell. And they do know. And they are just like a bloodhound. They know what's in the woods, who's in the woods, where it's at. They know.
You know, hindsight's always 20/20, and looking back at the worst night that I ever had in my life, the whole time that we got way, way back in there where Glagg was staying by himself, he was doing that the entire time, and I didn't think anything of it. I was spending time with my buddy, but before that fight happened that night, that's what he was doing the entire time.
Yeah.
You know, I thought maybe I do that, you know, lick the side of my, like my lips will get chapped or something, and you know how you do that, and or I don't know why I do it, but I see him do that, and I never thought anything of it like that. I never even, not for a second, thought that's what he's doing, but yeah, he does that quite a bit, though. Now that you mention it, I thought maybe he had something wrong with the corners of his mouth. He does it so much sometimes, once in a while. Not all the time, but he does do that a lot.
Yeah, he's testing the air. He's testing to see what's around him, you know. And when you watch the babies, when they learn to do it, they're the same way. You know, they're funny though because they lick it all over their mouth. You know, it's just like a baby, you know, drools. And so it's like, and then they're constantly wiping it, and then they'll come back and they'll wipe it across their arm, and then they'll smell their arm. You know, because it has scent on it, you know, and that's what I've just figured out of my own volition, you know, over the years. So.
Right. But if Glagg ever did that, I just don't remember. And it wasn't important enough to me to file that away in my memory, but I don't remember. Another thing that gets me is how, you know, people don't understand that you can say so much between each other, meaning the Bigfoot and yourself, without ever saying a word. Just the look. Mm-hmm. There's so much that, and how much expression is in their face. You don't have to say words.
No, not at all. You know, a lot of people see that picture that I put up of Bradus, you know, my baby when he was little. And you see his eyes, and you can just tell from the look on his face, just from those eyes, he's busted. He's doing something he's not supposed to be doing, and you can just see it in his face. He's like, oh, no, you know, how am I going to get out of this? And
he's holding the knitting needle behind his back and plotting on jabbing somebody in the butt with it.
Oh, Kevin, something I wanted to say there on that. You know, you met Glagg when he was really little. Maybe that's something they got to show, like the parents would teach him or something like that. Maybe that's what, I mean, you know, he probably learned his stuff as he went, we hope. And maybe he didn't have enough time with his parents to learn the fundamentals, I guess you would say, of being a Sasquatch. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. And that's why I spent as much time up there with him as I could, as I didn't think he knew a whole lot on how to survive by himself. Hopefully, I was able to teach him that as we went. And, you know, with him being able to get bigger animals as we went along, and then I didn't have to provide as much of that, you know, after the first 2 years. He was bringing stuff in, had it ready waiting for me when I'd get up there.
Right.
So hopefully I, you know, had taught him enough or helped him enough that he could develop it himself.
Yeah.
But there's so much that people ask that I think that he missed a lot of what a young Sasquatch would get from his mother and father that he was never able to get. If there's stuff that I never saw, is there abilities that he had or that he didn't have yet? There's all sorts of those types of questions that I have. First off, how old do you think he was when I first met him? He is about the same size as me when I met him, maybe a little heavier, but right around 6'2" or so.
I'm going to say he's probably at that age. He's probably around 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was thinking he was closer
Sorry,
to
that was
my
my
age.
guess.
That makes
Like,
more
yeah.
sense.
Duke.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
I said that was my guess, so sorry about that. That's what I told him the first time we talked, and I was guessing.
The way that we did back then was because he was a lot younger than I thought he was. But
I think so. I do.
That speaks so much about their abilities there because of how much he grew in 5 years was just incredible.
Yeah.
Now, is that because I was helping provide for him in those first couple of years more than he was getting on his own? Or is that just how fast they grow? And how was he done growing at the end of that 5 years, or do you think he still got bigger?
No. Well, no, I mean, think about it chronologically. Answer your own question. They grow like sort of about the same speed as humans, right, Kat?
So he was getting close, but he wasn't finished.
He'll fill out more, fill out width-wise.
Right. Well, so did we, too. I mean, I didn't get any taller after I was 16, but I got a hell of a lot heavier over the next 5 or 6 years.
Right, and that's exactly what they do. Yeah, they're muscles.
Yeah, like Kat was saying, if he was around 8 years old when you first ran into him, Kev, then 5 years later, he's a 13-year-old. He's, early teenager.
No.
He's going to get a lot bigger.
So when he's 10 feet tall, he's the same age as my middle daughter.
Yeah, he's still going to get taller, and he's going to fill out a lot more. And that also should explain the interaction he was having with that female squatch that he showed up with the last time. He's a 13-year-old. It was just a friend. He had a friend.
Yeah. And that's what I wanted to ask Kat. Was that a mate, or was it just a friend that he had found?
They don't mate that young. I've had 14 of them in the troop, and they don't mate that young. I've never had them mate when they're that young. They typically, from my own experience with them, they start the mating routines right around the 25 to 30-year-old, maybe 40-year-old mark, because they do live a lot longer than us humans do.
Mm-hmm.
So
that was just a friend that he had found with me being gone so much.
Right.
That last year.
Yeah, and I want to stress that because a lot of people hear me talk about them, and the females don't go unescorted, but that's only when they're in a troop. If they're out on their own, if a female is by herself, she will pair up with a male, and it will not be sexual. It will just be for companionship because they are just like us. They don't like being alone.
Oh, God, I hope the poor thing wasn't orphaned and stuck in the same position Glagg was. That'd be really horrible.
But
yeah, that
she
would.
paired up with the toughest son of a gun in the valley.
Well, that's true. At least she found somebody who could take care of her. I just hope that it was that he got integrated into another troop up there. What do you think of the chances that that's actually what happened there, Kat?
That does happen a lot. Mine are not all from, one couple, one pair.
Right.
They do band together. Like I said, I have some that are hairless. I have a couple that are hairless. I have like Nali and Lemmy that come from, as far as I can figure out from their track patterns, come from down south. Otis and APOC come from up towards Canada, Montana way. They come together. So would they be willing to assimilate him? They sure would, because Scunny is still in my group, and he has never had a mate, and he is a single male, and they have assimilated him somewhat, So yes, I do believe that totally, that they could assimilate them into a group.
So I guess, and the other piece of good news here is that because, after they reach their full size and whatnot, they tend to live longer than we do anyway. Glagg's likely in his prime and still out there.
That
I agree.
I hope so. I've been asked over and over and over again if I have thought about going out and trying to get back in touch with him, and I would love to. I would love, just seeing him from a distance and knowing that he's okay. That would mean so much to me. I don't expect to have the same type of interactions we had when he was younger and I was younger. I don't think that'd happen.
Can I ask you a question? Would you just be accepting of being able to see him and to see that he's alive and that he's okay?
Yeah, that's all I want.
Okay. And I agree. That's when they get to that point where they don't want to interact anymore, because I do have some, that have gone off and have left over the years. They get to that point, and every now and then, I want to say about every 10 years or so, one of them will pop back up, and they don't want to hang around with me. They don't want me coming near them, but they will make sure that they make eye contact with me so that I do see them, and then they leave. And then I'm like, okay, you're still around. You're okay. So that's very important to me that you are.
That's all I want, is just to know that he's still okay.
Yeah. And I understand.
Fine,
I couldn't have the same type of interaction that we had when I was younger. I'm not younger anymore. I wouldn't be able to do all the physical stuff that we did, the running around, especially up there high up in the mountains. No way, not anymore. But I just want to know he's okay.
That's where you're going to take me. Throw me at him, let him ragdoll me around, and say, that's what we used to do.
Yeah.
That's funny you use the expression ragdoll you around, because I use that with them. They do that with me.
That's something that I wanted to ask is, have you ever been able to take a ride on one of their backs when they run?
Yes. Yes, I have. I've also been carried like a baby, for goodness sakes. It was ridiculous, but yeah.
That's what got me, is when you'd pick me up like a baby and walk and take off. That's what I kept getting at about how gentle they were. Here's this big guy that he's 3 times my size, and he picks me up just like you would a baby.
Yeah, and I've had him do that and climb with me to the top of a cedar tree.
Oh,
yeah, it's
I
like,
don't ever want to go up another tree again in my life.
I've told people the story of them whizzing through the tree with me trying to outrun them down below, and that was my own fault. That was me being a bratty 10-year-old and egging them, and they kicked my butt. I mean, literally, something so huge just whizzing through the treetops like that, and then landing down in front of me with them circling around me. That taught me real quick, you're not ever going to outrun them. So don't even try.
That's why I said I never had a foot race with Glagg, because I knew I'd lose.
Yeah.
There's no way I could. I never was able to do anything physical. There's no way I could have ever beat him at anything. As much as we played together, that's why it was just a bunch of exploring, and the funnest thing in the world for me was hopping on his back and letting him run.
That would be awesome. I got a question for you, Khat, real quick. When they pick you up like that and hold you like a child, and Duke knows the story of Scooter's mom, they called her Dolly, okay? And she picked up Sally's husband. He was over by the garden doing something, and she just picked him up like a baby and was just looking into his eyes with a lot of love, and he messed all over himself. What does that mean when they do something like that to a person? I've heard of that a couple times. After me and Duke talked about it, I never heard anything like that, and I was like, on the fence about it. And then I heard Caveman. Was it Caveman? His cousin would get picked up and drug off the mattress? Duke?
Yep.
So are they trying to show you a form of endearment? I mean, because that's what it sounded like Dolly was doing. But, I'm
going to put it to you like this, okay? Think about it.
if you've ever watched any of Jane Goodall's, videos, you'll notice that the chimps do it as well. Human mothers do it with their babies. You gaze, and gazing into eyes like that projects a sense of familiarity. It projects love. It projects safety, because think about us as humans. We're very expressive with our faces, okay? And our eyes, like I just said, our eyes tell a lot about us. Mine change color when I'm mad. They turn green. When I'm happy, they stay the nice dark, almost blacky brown. But as I notice with them, that's one of the first things they do when they have the baby. They are sitting there constantly looking in its eyes, making the eyebrow gestures, moving their eyes from side to side, I think it's a form of teaching that child, look at my face, look at my eyes. If you can look at me, you're going to know what's going on. I think they do it with us as well, because they're very human-like. And they're trying to let us know that there's love, there's trust, because if you're being held like a baby, or you're being picked up and something is that close to your eyes, looking you in the eye, automatically humans, our eyes dilate, our pupils dilate when we're nervous, They contract, they can sense that, they can see that, and then there's the added woo part of all of that I've told people about. And it's the fact that they do two things when they do that. When they look into your eyes that deep, it's a strange thing that they can do. They have the ability to, I want to call it thought projection, but it's not really. I don't know what it is.
Snap a picture in your head. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes.
I told Duke about that, and that's spooky, and that's what. He will break his gaze because Scooter don't want me staring at him in the face. I don't know. It makes him feel uncomfortable sometimes, but sometimes he will look into my face and just it's like he's almost crawling inside. I don't know how to explain it. It's like they're crawling in your head.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, because I don't know nothing about them. I don't even know what they are, and this is a dream come true. Getting to listen to you talk and Kevin ask questions. This is like the best show I've ever listened to. But anyway, they snap pictures in your head or something. And I hate saying that aloud because people have a hard enough time believing they're even there. And then when you say something like that, which I don't say that to a lot of people. I've told Duke, and now I've said it over the air, but there's more. There's more of these things than I'll ever know, but anyway.
There's something else, too, that they're able they can put that picture in your head, but at the same time, too, I've gotten the message from them that they take out something from us as well. So when they're making that connection and staring at us, they may be able to put something in there, but they're also able to see something that's inside of us.
That's what we've just been talking about. Sorry to interrupt, but it makes something stand out more in my mind on that night that Glagg took me up the tree and he started back down, and then when he came back up and looked right into my eyes and asked me if I had my gun, that what you were saying about how your eyes change color when you're mad?
Yeah.
Oh, mercy, that makes that whole, few seconds right there mean so much more. When he came back up and looked in my eyes, I was terrified, confused and everything. And is that why he came back up and made sure that I had my gun with me?
I would believe so. I do.
And that's why he looked right in my eyes and held that gaze for just long enough to realize that I'm terrified. It just makes that whole situation right there mean so much more, and how much more they are than what people ever give them credit for.
I know.
Right. Yeah. You see, and think about that. If they're giving us a thought picture, what do our thoughts say to them? I've always wondered, and mine are very, very human-like. They pick up a lot of stuff from myself growing up and from my own kids. My kids are all adults now, but as children, they would always put the finger beside the head and roll it and go, "Oh, Mom's nutso," when I was out there. And so they started doing that, and they would give the uh-oh look, and they pick up stuff very quickly, and they figure out that if they're giving us a thought, then they're taking something from our chaotic brains as well. And when I say chaotic, I mean chaotic, because when you're out there with them, you are scared. Most people don't, they hear us talk about them, but they don't realize that what we are talking about. So I always tell people, take a tape measure out and go measure 10 feet. Measure 10 feet up the side of a wall, okay? And then, take that and then put 4 feet across for shoulders, These things are huge. Take a basketball and try to hold it with one hand, and have your fingers come all the way down on either side of the basketball. They don't get that. Yeah. I'll tell you something.
I wouldn't be able to fit inside my garage.
No.
He would have to get down on his knees to get inside my garage.
Yeah.
If he could get through the door.
That tells you how big he is. Yeah, to get through the door, he would have to get onto his hands and knees.
And turn sideways.
Mine's two-car garage, so he could come straight through, but barely.
Oh, yeah, okay. That's one thing when people ask me about him, I'm like, you've seen 7 foot tall, 8 foot tall guys. I said, the height is not what really blows you away. It is the girth, the mass. Just, I'm telling you, they are enormous. There's no way, it's like standing next to an elephant. And people got their weights all screwed up, because I'm going to tell you what, Scooter is heavy. If there's a way that I could get him on a tow truck scale or something, I'd do it. But he's skittish, and so am I. But
we're still trying to figure out a way to rig up some kind of a livestock scale out there and get Scooter to step on it, but we haven't figured that one out yet.
I'm telling you, I know he's got to weigh over 1,500 pounds. It has to. I was telling Duke that, and he's grown since I've seen him, and just he's massive. And
you got a pretty good guess on how old Scooter is now too. He's like what, around 1920?
Yeah, I'm going to say he's 19 years old, because me and Sally sit around, and she thinks she remembers hearing the night that Dolly gave birth to him, because it got really wild out there for a little bit, and then heard some screams or something, and then it got really quiet, and then like 2 or 3 weeks later, Dolly loved these people, and I think that's the only reason that I've been given the opportunity to just get as close as I have to him, is because his mother and Sally formed some type of bond, and she said, "Here comes Dolly out of the woods."
Yeah, Scooter's got a bond with you now too.
I know, and the only time his eyes their eyes move really rapid, and it's kind of scary. And it's like a bird or something is the only way I know how to put it. But when their eyes, when they do gaze at you, it seems like that's the only time they really settle down. You know what I mean? And when they're staring right into your heart or whatever, it's like the only time that their eyes will, because I just contributed to them being out there in the woods and being on high alert all the time. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
And that seems to be the only time when it seems like they're at peace for a moment, which I think is awful.
Thank you. There's something there that most people don't even think about, and that is the fact that when you're interacting with them or catching a glimpse of them, they're always moving. The only time they ever stop moving is when they lay down and put their heads against the ground and sleep, and rest that way. Or the closest thing I've ever gotten them to do with stationary is even when they sit, they're moving. You know, they're shifting. There's something on them that's constantly moving. You know, and that is because, like you said, they're on high alert. And people always say, well, what do they got to be afraid of? Oh, actually, they've got quite a bit to be afraid of. It's
Humans.
called humanity, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. That's so sad.
That brings up something that you just said, Khat, that now that I'm older, it bothers me, but I never saw Glagg sleep. Is that because when I was around, he was, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I think he is always either, I slept while I was around him, but I don't think he ever slept. Trying to think back, I don't think I ever saw him sleep. And is that just his concern for me while I'm there?
I have a feeling it was. I think he was, he wanted you there, so his attention is focused on you. So, and when they focus on something, and you guys know what I'm talking about here, when they focus on something, it's intense. It's not just a passing, oh, that's interesting sort of thing. No, it doesn't work like that with them. They give it their all. I mean, it's 110%. You know, they're studying it, they're looking at it, they're trying to figure it out.
Exactly.
You know?
Like when you hand them something and they get it in their hands, first thing they do, sniff, taste, and they will roll it between their hands, and they'll touch it with their feet even. I mean, the way they handle things, you're like, well, this is just, he had my pocket knife one time, and I mean, the way he worked it over, and it had a couple blades on it, and he figured out within seconds how to open them other blades and stuff like that. I mean, imagine handing me, I don't know, a computer, and me just being able, after 5 minutes of looking at it, being able to operate it. And that's how he was. I mean, but they take it right to that nose, and then they'll lick it, and just have it in their hand, working it over with their hands. I've never seen anything like that before in my life. Well, I have. An old man one time, he kind of, when he grabs hold of something, and he was a genius, and that guy could figure out anything. He'll just run it around his hands, but Scooter had that thing and sniffed it, licked it. Anything I hand him, sniff, lick, roll around his hands. And then he'll have it figured out. And people's wanting to know how they know how to turn off game cams and stuff like that. They're smarter. They are. I don't know.
Well, on the game cams, they've seen people come up there and mess with them so much that just by observing and people not knowing that they're being watched by them.
Monkey see, monkey do, huh?
And they're, and they are so smart. Like you were just saying, he figured out your pocket knife right away.
Yeah.
People don't give them credit. I think they're a lot more intelligent than we are. We evolved to be stupid.
Yeah. It's the truth.
It served us well.
And here comes Duke.
Story of them with the ham
never forget what. Let me interject here for a second. Good times for this quote. Frank Zappa. The things that made America great are cuteness and stupidity, and without them, we'd be nothing.
You'd say, I love that line or quote.
Yeah, it's true. It's sad to say, but it's true. And people don't give them credit for the intelligence level, but you have to remember, think about that. They're out there, so they have to learn to survive in a whole different environment than we have to. So they have to be able to pick stuff up really fast. New stuff comes. Look at how technologically advanced we are. Okay, so say this year we take out the one Coleman lantern when we go camping, and next year we take out the new improved model.
Exactly.
It's going to take us some time to look at that and figure out how to work the new one. They don't have that luxury. They see it, they're like, what is that? I need to know how that works, and I need to know how it works now, and they figure it out real quick. Like I was saying, I always tell the story of the cooler with the ham sandwiches in it, okay? I make peanut butter and jelly, and I make ham sandwiches when I go to see them. Not necessarily for them, per se, but they usually end up with them because my kids will pick what they want, and then they don't eat the others. And these guys would go into the cooler while we are out doing, looking in the woods and picking leaves and stuff. We would come back, and every doggone time they figured out, A, how to get the latch off the cooler, B, how to unzip the Ziploc baggie, take the ham out of the sandwich, put the pieces of bread back, zip the zipper up, and close the cooler up. It never failed. And you're sitting here looking at these big guys going, well, how in the world do you do that? To realize that the dexterity in their hands and their, to be able to do the things that they do is amazing, because what I just said, you've got a hand that can reach over a basketball, fingers touching it all the way around, and yet they have the dexterity to put a Ziploc baggie back.
Yes.
And to like when they bend them trees without breaking them, I mean, big 4-inch round trees, they'll take and bend those things, and they got so much sensitivity. To go back on what you said earlier, their hands are so sensitive. They to be able to bend that like that without breaking it, because they got to be able to feel when it starts popping and doing whatever it is, and slack up a little bit. It's amazing some of the things they can do. I mean, and that's just a tree structure. You know what I'm saying? People don't even know half of what they can do.
Yes. Well, before I ever met Glagg, when I was building the first tree stand in that meadow where I met him at, I told you I said on the air that I left my backpack up there, and I had some beef jerky and, deer jerky and some granola and stuff in there.
Yeah.
And something unzipped my backpack, got in there and got all the food out of it, and that confused me. It's like, man, if it would have been any other, a bobcat or a raccoon or anything like that, it would have torn my backpack apart. Something got in there and unzipped my backpack and then zipped it back up, but just stole all the food out of it.
That's like Albert Osterman. What he thought at first, he had that hung up, and he thought a raccoon or a porcupine or something had been getting into his backpack. But, and then it come to him that something with hands was opening that thing. So,
yes.
Then he came in and caught him sleeping in a sleeping bag, mistook him for a burrito, and took off with him.
A burrito. Oh, my heck.
The postman burrito. The legend being told of the Ostman burrito and how it turned out to have legs and arms and got up and ran away later.
They're probably still talking about it. I
always wondered about that. It's like, what exactly were they intending there? I mean, he seemed to have the idea that the old man had sort of kidnapped him to be like a friend or boyfriend for his daughter that he had there.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
What do you think about that, Kat?
But the daughter was, I got the impression from the story that the daughter was younger. So my first thought was, hearing that story, wasn't that he was there for mating purposes. He was there as a toy.
Entertainment.
An Osman toy.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he mistook him for a burrito, but it turned out to be a gaming console.
he was the toy in the bottom of the Happy Meal.
Yeah. There's a toy in the Happy Meal.
Yeah. I got a question, Kat. There's this one white one there. I'm terrified to death of it. And if I even get the sense that he's around, I'll go home. And he hates me. He wants to kill me. I can tell you right now. If Scooter wasn't around, Scooter's probably got a foot on him. And that one I was telling Duke or Kev last night. Can't remember who I was telling it to. He does have more, his eye teeth is what I'm going to use, are more prominent than Scooter's. But I'm assuming where everything's bigger on them, that they're just, bigger. But listening to you talk about that, I think he's got those fangs or whatever. I don't know. The white one does. And he's just hateful. He'd rip my arms off in a second.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it seem like Scooter would tell him, this one's okay, or something like that? But anytime this guy gets around, it's I'm shaking right now just talking about it, because I wake up 3 or 4 times a week, bad dreams on account of him. Like I told Duke, and I'm going to go do this too if I can get back there without being seen, well, without, causing a ruckus. He was so mad one time that he took a bite out of a tree. He just didn't know what to do with himself. He was just spun out and rat crap crazy. And he wanted me so bad, and Scooter's standing up, and they're having an interaction, and every now and then a few words would go, and then growls and barks, and, the animal part of them would come out. And that's the only way I know how to describe the way they seemed more animal to me at that moment in time, because they was both really aggressive and going crazy. And
right.
Scooter, and I'm constantly backing up, and and about to pass out and die, but he got so mad and frustrated that he couldn't get to me without having a conflict with Scooter, a fight, that he bit this tree. And I was like, oh my God, I gotta go. And I know you're not supposed to run, but that's the only time I turn, and booked it. I could have beat Jesse Owens in a foot race. But,
right.
I don't know what. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, no, I'm curious what happened to make him bite the tree. What was going on? Was Scooter fending him off from you?
Yes. They were probably 10 yards apart, and the white one was probably the closest he's ever got to me, 30 yards away. And Scooter was saying something. I don't know I don't understand them. But there was some chatter, as they call it, and then grunting, barking, and just a show of bravado, between each other. And I hate to say it, but I would compare it to what silverbacks do to a certain degree. This was more intelligent. I don't know how to explain it. That's the only time I viewed them as animals, and I haven't since then. But that's the only time that I've seen them as, and that scared me, and I stayed away for a little bit, which I shouldn't have. But that's okay.
I think you're kind of smart there to do that, and I'm going to liken that to my relationship with Scunny, because Scunny is the single male I told you about, the lone male.
Uh-huh.
And he and I got into it back in 2008, I think it was. Bad, to the point where I actually went to go hunt him down. I had enough of him.
Wow.
He would do some terrible things. He gutted my horse, killed my daughter's cat. He was just on it. And that's all because he doesn't like humans. He doesn't want me there with him. And there again, Kyasa and the other male stand up for me. They when he's there, and even he hasn't looked my way since he's been back, but before that, he would go out of his way to stalk me and make it very clear that he did not want me there. And as a child, it scared me so bad, with him at times that that was my first few times as a child being picked up and literally carried up the canyon wall and dropped off at my doorstep so that he couldn't get a hold of me. He's very intimidating in that, like you said, the silverback reaction is just like that with the other males and him. If you are feeling that much energy off him, I'm not one of those people that's going to tell you to just stick it out and be friends with him. You know what? I've known Scunny for 50 years. I can't stand him. I stay away from him, and I do not try to make friends with him. I do the best to my ability to stay away from him, and if I'm within, I want to say, a few yards of him, I make sure that I have some kind of weapon on me. I don't, when I'm interacting with the group, I don't carry the gun into the group. But I do carry knives. I do carry knives, and I'll tell you what, you're gonna go at me, you're gonna know you've been in a fight. So that one, I would suggest you be careful, but at the same time, I try to tell people, the more you show them that you're afraid of them, they win, you know. And if he's trying to do that bad, he's winning. So Scooter does understand you. He understands you very well. I do know that because you've interacted with him and he listens. You know, he's grown up around people speaking English, so he does understand what's going on. And all you have to do for sign language is point at Mr. Whitey and tell him, you know, danger. This is danger me. Eat me. You know, tell him no. And
I have had that conversation with him, and you know how they get that. They'll do no back to you, the head shake no, or Scooter will me. Okay.
Yeah.
I have. And I'm like, I don't want to come around here because of him. I'm afraid of him. And we got another name for him. I'm not going to say it on the air, but you guys can probably figure it out. Starts with a D and ends with a D. And he was telling me, I don't know how to explain this, people. You guys know what I'm talking about. He was telling me, without saying a word, that he is not going to let him hurt me, and please, don't go away. And, you know, he's shaking his head back and forth. And, but I'm telling you, and I don't want to be friends with that dude. And I don't carry a gun up there to him because I take a pocket knife, and it's not a big pocket knife, you know, but I would never even try to do anything with that. You know what I mean? I just go there to whittle and just sit and relax around him is what I do.
Exactly. And when he really
if he goes to interact with me, I interact with him.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But if he's being that aggressive, the others know, too, that he's being aggressive like that, you know. And if Scooter's telling you not to be afraid, then that tells you, because this is something that I really want to push home on these guys. These guys do not have ego like humans have ego. No. So if he's telling you not to be afraid, he's telling you he can whoop his butt. So don't worry about it.
But see, there's an Auburn one, too, that's dumber than a box of rocks. And I think he would do anything he was told to do. And what scares me is if the white one and that dumb Auburn one got together and they both jumped Scooter. I run so many stupid scenarios through my head. You know what? That's just what I do too much of. Is sit around. It consumes your damn life.
I think that if Scooter's there, you don't ever have anything to worry about from any of them.
That's what I think as well, because they're, like I just said, they don't have ego. And, you know, the other one may be dumber than a box of rocks.
But I guarantee you, Scooter's got him on, you know, Scooter can control him, that dumb one. Yep.
So I don't think you have to worry about him. I will say this, though. He's not above, the white guy is not above doing sneaky garbage, okay? And they do sneaky garbage, you know. So always watch your back when you leave. You know, if you have to hike down a trail or whatever, I don't know how far you have to go to have interaction, but if you know, I'm that way with Scunny. And when I've been up there, you know, him and I, like I said, we have a long relationship, 50 years. He knows I'm not going to put up with him. And sometimes I'm not above being a nasty person because I do carry, the knives that I carry are obsidian blades. They're very sharp. And I've pulled them out and showed him, look, this is my new one. Don't you like him? And oh, by the way, this is my machete over here. Like this one too? Yeah, I brought this up to cut some brush with. You know, things like that. And I just look at him out of the corner of my eye, and I give him the same look back, and he figures out, I know he knows. I'm telling him, go ahead and try something, buddy, you know, because that's the way I am. It's a good day to die. But I guarantee you're going to feel what I feel.
Man.
You might get me, but you're going to know I was there.
Like Bear says, if he's out in the field and he disappears at some point, just go look around where he disappeared and find the knife on the ground with the blood on it. You may not find him, but you'll find the knife with the blood on it somewhere.
And a big pile of crap.
That's it, exactly. I've
told my own children that. Look for the pile of crap with the headscarf on. You'll know it's me.
Yeah. And I mean a big pile. Because I get scared about it, I tell you.